In this video, we'll be catching
my God.
and eating
He's hot.
live Maine lobster plucked straight from the ocean.
I'm excited.
Let's do it.
Give a little bit of a dip. Cheers.
Cheers.
But before that, let's back up. This is our first stop on our epic East Coast seafood tour, spanning all the way from Maine down to Miami.
First of all, Maine. What is it? Well, it's a state. But let's look up some other fun facts about Maine. There's no internet here. Fun fact number 1, internet coverage is really spotty.
We begin in the largest lobster producing state in the USA, where over 100 million pounds of these colorful crustaceans are harvested each year.
How many lobstermen are missing, a finger down to like a knuckle?
There's quite a few.
But you got all yours?
Yeah, so far so good.
Guiding us on our journey, Jacob Knowles, America's most beloved lobsterman. He's taught millions what's required to take on this back-breaking work.
They got to be between 3 1/4 and 5 inches, so that's the other side of our measure.
That's my wife's requirements for me.
Today, I'm on a mission to learn how lobster trapping works
So in Maine, we actually can't keep them when they get too big. We'll have to measure it to find out.
and the labor-intensive process required to ship these guys to their final destination, whether it's across the country or across the world.
Right here in this area, you're separating the good and bad
Yes.
lobsters. What makes a bad lobster?
And it all starts right here on this dock.
Right now we're at a local harbor. There's a boat behind me, and this boat belongs to Jacob Knowles. You might be wondering who that is until you remember that, wait, I keep seeing this guy on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. It's that guy.
Here we have a fairly large female that's currently full of eggs.
The way he makes money is by fishing for lobster, or caging. The lobster go into a cage. Right now we're about to go out on this lobster boat to pull up some cages and see what we can find. Let's do this.
For me, a fervent seafood lover, coming here to the most eastern outpost of New England is an absolute dream. This cold, clean Atlantic water is home to one of the most sought-after lobsters in the world, all hand-harvested from small day boats by independent lobstermen with special licenses.
Jacob?
Just like Jacob Knowles.
Put her there.
Nice to meet you.
You are a lobsterman. Is that what it's called?
Lobster fisherman, lobsterman, either one.
What's this place like?
I would say it's pretty old-fashioned.
How is it different from the rest of the USA?
We kind of got left back in time.
Maine, sparsely populated with only 1.4 million, is dotted with historic buildings, cozy towns, and more lighthouses than you could shake a stick at.
Especially in the fishing world. The average age of fishermen is 55 years old. Generational family driven. I'm 5th generation.
And for 5 generations, you've been able to do that, and there's
Correct.
still enough lobster.
Yeah, and that's thanks to the sustainability measures that are in place for it.
Soon, I'll be tasting one of Jacob's largest catches. But snagging these lobsters in the Gulf of Maine isn't just about casting a net and counting your bounty. Many of them are illegal to keep.
All right, so we're pulling up to the first buoy. On each buoy, we have 2 lobster traps. They're all baited. They're sitting on bottom. We're gonna pull them up and see what's in them.
Do you even remember how old you were the first time you got on a
No,
boat?
I don't. It was probably 4 or 5 with my dad.
It's just you've been doing it your actual entire
My
life.
entire life.
It's like on America's Got Talent when girls are like, I've been dancing since I was 2. But for you, maybe so.
Yeah, grew up doing it. We got a few lobsters. This is the first trap. This is what we would call the header. These are pairs. And here comes the tailer. We got a real nice keeper here. This is a large lobster, about a 2-pounder. Fantastic eating lobster. So on a typical day, we start much earlier than this, 3:30 in the morning. And we have 800 traps stay in the water all the time, and we just go out. We pull 400 traps in each rotation. We bring our catch back in and sell it at the end of the day. It's just day trips. We don't do any kind of trip fishing. We got a real large female. So in Maine, we actually can't keep them when they get too big. This one's probably a keeper. It's very close. We'll have to measure it to find out.
In 1872, Maine set the standard with a suite of regulations to safeguard its precious lobster populations. These same measures are still enforced today.
So I can quickly tell that most of these are too short.
There are strict size limits.
They all go back.
The traps themselves must be equipped with escape vents and biodegradable panels.
In the rare event a trap is lost, these hog rings will rust out, this door will open, and it will let everything in the trap out.
Then there's the V-notch, a way of marking females who will be the future mothers of tomorrow's lobster catch.
She's a proven breeder, so we must let her go. This is one of many things that keeps fishery so sustainable.
Jacob launched his TikTok journey 3 years ago, breaking down the ins and outs of lobster trapping.
Somebody's already given her a notch. If you've been watching my shorts, you probably learned that the notch is a way to protect them.
Now he has millions of followers, and he's even been featured in the New York Times. Though he's become an internet sensation, he hasn't left the sea behind.
I'm gonna open it up, attempt to take out each species that's inside of here. I'm gonna start with this little guy. Oh, yes!
It's a small Jonah crab. We get paid better money for the lobster, so that's what we target.
Bye, little guy. All right, we got, this right here, is it a boy or a girl?
That's a female, yep.
Okay.
Just look at their swimmerettes here. And their upper ones are very flimsy. On the males, they'll be bigger, more stiff.
So we're keeping this one.
This one is probably too short, actually.
Oh no, there's other regulations.
Yeah, we can only keep them if they're over 3 1/4 from their eye down to the back of their shell. You can see this one's clearly under 3 1/4, so she's got to be released as well. They need a chance to show that they can breed. We sometimes will give them a fish for a snack for the road, if you've seen that.
I did see that,
Yeah.
I like that. I'm going right to this gigantic one we've got in here. See if I can do it. Oh my God. Wow.
Those are very nice, yeah.
Talking about size, it's a female.
She's got no knots.
So far we're okay. What about the length?
Along with 3 1/4, they also can't be over 5 inches. That's the other side of our measure.
That's my wife's requirements for me.
Yeah, 5 inches is very large, so just barely legal. This is actually a keeper.
Really?
She's actually a hard shell. She's going to taste much different than a soft-shelled lobster.
Much different.
The soft shells are much sweeter. I actually very much prefer the soft-shelled lobsters.
Most of us, when we're eating a lobster in a restaurant around the country, are we eating a hard shell or a soft shell?
Almost always you're eating a hard shell because they're durable. They survive shipping much better. Soft shells aren't able to survive shipping. We can't ship a soft shell to Florida.
I just feel so ripped off right now.
Yeah, well, you're going to get to experience right here, right out of the ocean.
You've got some?
This one right here is a nice soft shell.
Next, Jacob's preparing a meal fit for royalty, dining on fresh lobster from trap to table. The star of the show, this barely legal hard shell. And some softies too, all steamed the fisherman's way, using salty ocean water.
Obviously, you know the nuance of lobster. You live here, you fish for them, you eat it often?
I eat it probably 5 or 6 times a year, usually just for occasions. My wife likes them, so whenever she wants them, I bring them home. I don't eat them for myself necessarily. I do enjoy them though.
Yeah, don't what? Don't smoke your own supply?
Don't get high on your own supply.
After 12 minutes, it's time to take a look.
These ones are definitely done. We got a big one in here that we're gonna give him 5 more minutes.
Meanwhile, Jacob whips up a local lobster dipping sauce.
Here's a little trick. We actually add vinegar to the butter. This is top secret, don't tell anybody. The vinegar adds great flavor to the butter and kind of cuts it. In my opinion, it's much better.
In the future, Jacob aims to pivot his online presence into a full-time gig,
He's hot.
while making lobster fishing the side gig. But for now, he's sticking to what he knows best.
When I said I wanted to try this giant, nearly 4-pound lobster, you said nasty.
It does.
Why?
From what I hear, they are much less sweet.
Hold on, you're saying nasty, but you don't even know for sure.
You want to bet? $5?
Well, okay.
It's not going to be nasty, but it's not going to be like these.
All right, let's try it out.
The first thing we do is separate the tail from the body, separate the tail flippers from the tail. We have a hole right here in the back. Push your finger right in the hole. Work good.
Ooh.
There's a big tail.
That was like a magic button you pressed. Oh, what's that part you're taking off now?
It's covering the poop chute. So we can eat it, but this is the more preferred part of the tail. Let's try it plain.
Cheers.
Cheers. It tastes good.
I still like it.
I'm surprised at how good it tastes.
It's pretty sweet. It's on the edge of being tough, but not too tough. Slightly stringy, not too stringy.
Let's try a shot.
That was our benchmark. Now we're gonna try one of these.
You'll notice that the tail has much less meat in it.
You take one tail, I take one tail. Ready?
Ready.
Let's go for it.
You can taste the sweetness.
You can taste the innocent. It's so young. Oh, that's so delicious.
Very good.
Clean, sweet, fatty, and just a wonderful texture. What I want to try next is the butter, which you have mixed with vinegar, which is something I've never tried before.
Yeah.
Let's go for it.
That's the best.
What?
That's my favorite.
That is super unique.
I don't feel like it takes away from the flavor of the lobster either.
Not at all. Yeah, it elevates the flavor of the butter.
For sure.
That's really nice.
Really good. My favorite part of the lobster is actually the claw. You can pull the knuckles right out. More tender meat.
That is much more akin to like a crab leg.
Much more like crab meat.
What's next?
With the pincher claw, we're actually gonna have to break it. There we go. There's a piece for you. That's my favorite bite right there.
Thank you. I'm excited. Let's
do it.
Give a little bit of a dip.
I thought you loved me.
Bliss.
Is that your favorite part too?
That's nirvana. I went to a new level of food heaven.
That's great.
Oh, that's fantastic. I just had this thought, like, you know, if a Mormon knocked on your door and then they were like, taste this, and then you're like, oh my God, and they're like, you could have that for eternity. I'd be like, where do I sign? Just a moment of perfection.
We can have more moments.
I can have more moments. This is incredible.
All you can eat buffet.
It's raining and I don't even care.
Even with today's abundant harvest, not all of these lobsters are considered good. Next, we're headed to a facility where I'll learn what makes a bad lobster and the tragic story of where they end up.
Victor, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Now, I'm told this is a processing facility for lobsters, but then I was also told the lobsters come here, they're alive. When they leave,
They're alive.
They're also alive. What kind of processing is happening here?
Much of Maine's live lobster haul heads to facilities like Lobster Trap.
Do you pay them? Who pays them?
We pay them.
These centers can process up to 600,000 pounds of lobster at a time, and they can store 200,000 pounds of live lobster, holding them for up to 3 months depending on market demand.
If you have overrun in the wintertime, same thing in the fall, we'll put lobsters in, we feed them, take care of them.
I like you say take care of them. Like take them for walks,
Yeah.
give them medicine.
No medicine.
A lobster pound is designed to emulate the natural environment of the crustaceans until they're ready to go to market.
Victor,
Hello.
We're inside now. Right here behind me, it's a giant pool. It's full of baskets of lobster.
We're gonna pull out, we get what we call a basic boat run. We then segregate whether it's a good lobster or a processed lobster.
What makes a bad lobster?
Something that is not uniform to what you'd want to see on a dinner plate.
Because the claws are different sizes?
Correct.
What happened there?
He could have lost that years ago. Of course, they do regrow their claws, so he's not up to speed yet. Same thing with like this one.
Okay, I could have figured this one out. What do they consider this?
A pistol.
Well, he's got one arm. The bad lobsters, where do they go?
A lot of times they go to Canada, depending on what's happening, where they'll actually be broken
take that,
down.
Canada. You can have our crappy lobsters. We're keeping the good ones.
They actually process them down into meat format where they can go in stews or they can go into sushi.
Somewhere where you don't have to see their disgusting one-clawed body.
Correct.
I had no idea there were so many deformed lobsters crawling around on the ocean floor because all you ever get to see are the beautiful ones.
On the flip side, the good lobsters are meticulously sorted into 7 weight categories.
This would be like 3.5.
Those tipping the scales at over 2 pounds are labeled select, and they fetch the highest prices.
Where are you shipping these?
All around the world. We have an office in Spain and Holland, Vietnam, Germany, Berlin. Some of that will go air freight, some of it will go by truck.
So some are flown.
Yes.
Wild.
There's a lot of labor of love behind these in order to get this all around the world.
From here, I'm gonna ship myself to a nearby restaurant to try some of this lobster right here in Maine.
Yeah.
There could be nothing better than eating lobster at a restaurant that was voted best of Portland. Here, they've won best waterfront dining, best deck, and most important, best lobster roll.
First of all, very happy to be here. I'm excited because I'm from Minnesota, far from an ocean.
Very far.
So in my head, I thought, well, we're not really a bunch of a seafood country, but it's like, oh wait, maybe that's because I live super far from both oceans. But you grew up in Maine.
I did.
There's a lot of seafood.
There is.
Among their top sellers, the classic steamed lobster with corn, a savory clam roll with plenty of fried clam, and the legendary lobster roll, of which they sell an impressive 600 portions daily. And I'm about to make it 601. But first, I want to whet my appetite with another Maine specialty.
This is clam chowder.
New England clam chowder.
Iconic.
First, marry salted butter and chopped pork together, then stir until it turns golden brown.
Something I've wanted to try my whole life. I mean, I've had Campbell's
Right.
New England clam chowder. How would this compare?
Add minced onions and celery, then anchovies, garlic, more salted butter, and stir.
They kind of made clam chowder, the idea of clam chowder, what it is. So when people come and they're looking for a clam chowder, they're looking for that thick consistency.
Next, keep adding all-purpose flour and mix until the blend becomes thick.
Actually, a traditional chowder is a thin soup.
Oh, okay.
We're giving the people what they want.
Now pour in chopped clam that's been boiling with tomatoes.
Isn't that heartbreaking?
It is a little bit.
I don't go to China and expect to see a cream cheese wonton.
Yeah.
Do you still like this?
I love it. I like both.
Both good, just different.
Yes.
Toss in clam juice, mix, diced potatoes, mix, then add salt, white pepper, dried parsley, basil, and half. Finally, some scallions to top it off.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, it's a wonderful combination of textures. Mushy potato, and the clam is super chewy, but it's a wonderful chewiness. You kind of like chewing the flavor out of it. The potato chunks feel like more fresh. Am I comparing it to Campbell's right now? What type of clam are you using?
These are just like a
Run-of-the-mill clam.
Yeah, there's places pretty close that you can dig clams right out of the ocean. One of my coworkers was just telling me about digging with their toes. I don't think that's how they're doing it for these ones.
Okay, I hope not. How long have you lived here?
I've lived in Portland for 17 years, but I've lived in Maine my whole life.
When we first came here, I was really excited. I'm still excited, but I was told this is the biggest city in Maine. And I pictured, wow, like futuristic metropolis. And then I looked it up, 65,000 people.
Yeah.
So what is the personality of Portland?
It's a foodie city. People are passionate about cooking here. We have access to beautiful seafood. We have a great farmland here as well. Fresh veggies, foraged foods, and things like that. We have beef farms, we have dairy farms, we have potatoes, we have blueberries. We have a lot to offer food-wise. So for someone who enjoys cooking, it's awesome.
So the tourists who do come here, what are they after?
Seafood.
What foods are most tourists after when they come here?
I mean, I think lobster, probably.
After our freshly boiled lobster has been chilled, they meticulously extract the succulent meat from the tails to the tips of the claws. A crisp lettuce leaf nestles inside a toasted bun, cradling the chilled lobster. Add a drizzle of melted butter, served up with a side of golden fries, and this coastal indulgence is at its best.
Would you say that's a whole lobster in there?
Yeah, it's a meat from just about a 1 pound lobster in each roll.
Joining Carissa and me, Portland Lobster Company owner Ethan Morgan.
So you have this great combination of temperatures, actually. You have the roll, which is hot, it's still steaming, and then all the lobster inside is chilled.
Yeah.
You do have some butter on the side just in case if people want it.
Yeah, you gotta try it. It adds just a little salt, adds a little bit more to it.
Take it to the next level.
And that's really all you need.
It's so fresh, it's so clean, it's sweet, it's fatty. I love it. What got you into this business?
I came here to pour beers 20 years ago during college. That was it. I was gonna spend one summer here on the coast, just fell in love with it.
What's interesting to me about not just Portland, but Maine is it has a small town feel. Everyone feels very connected. Everyone knows everybody, especially within this very prominent industry. Everybody knows some lobstermen, people who work in processing areas, people who are selling the final product. I guess one of my big questions is the people actually catching the lobster. Are they getting a raw deal? Because it seems like we have so many middlemen in so many industries, and it's never like, oh, the farmers increase their prices again. No, it's always like everyone else increases their prices.
Yeah.
The lobster is still $5 a pound.
The lobstermen they work really hard. They're the ones that are out there 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, going out setting traps, working all hours of the day to bring in not a whole lot.
You've been doing this for a long time. What are the biggest challenges you face or that other lobstermen face?
There's a lot of times throughout the year where the fishing is poor, and during those times we're limited to how far we can kind of explore and search for lobsters. We just kind of got to wait and grind it out, and during those times it becomes pretty tedious. And then the back-breaking work obviously is very physical labor. My father, my grandfather, by the time they're 40, 50 years old, their bodies are worn out.
Jeez.
Yeah.
The tourist market here in the state drives some of the price for sure, but a lot of it is driven by processing houses. A couple of months ago, we'd start sourcing our own lobsters. Ultimately, the goal is be able to work with a handful of lobstermen that we know, and then we can pay them a fair amount more to cut out that middleman. It's a pretty touchy subject here in the state for sure.
Why is this a sensitive topic?
So the boats are coming in, they're selling to a pound, they're selling them on to somebody else. Everybody's tacking on 20 cents, 30 cents here and there. It's not that anybody is necessarily gouging, it's just that it's an expensive process too.
Right.
You're trying to keep an animal alive, and that takes an awful lot of resources to do. So when it gets to the table, you're seeing a fairly high price that isn't necessarily reflected on the boat.
What do you think is the future for the lobster industry here?
Fishermen that are off the coast of Maine, they recognize that this is the industry for the state. They recognize that it is their bread and butter, and they're very good at self-sustaining. They're setting their own regulations, and it's been a model of sustainability. That's something that more money needs to be driven to right now as we do start looking at warming waters. Things I'm sure you learned the other day about V-notching, trap excluders,
right.
everything like that. They're not going to be overfishing.
If you love Indian food, then you're gonna love our new channel, Best Ever Food India. Subscribe now for weekly videos showcasing the most unique street food from around the country.
You want my gloves off?
Whatever's comfortable. Jacob, put her there.
I'll take the gloves off.
I will start over.
All right, go ahead.
Jacob, put her there.
Nice to meet you.
Let's do it again. If you can, look at this camera.
The wide angle one?
Yeah, the wide angle one.
Wow, look at this guy.
The primary purpose of these is to track entanglement with the endangered right whale.
Is that it?
No, I'm just thinking.
Behind me.
Yes.
Is that the ocean?
Correct.
Okay. That's it? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, see.
Yeah,
Oh, cool, a crazy homeless guy.
this is normal.
Oh, maybe he's a history teacher. It sounds like he's giving us good information.
He's got lots to say.
Lobster only.
Yes, correct.
Nothing else in there.
Nothing else.
All right, those are all my questions. Oh, what's that part you're taking off now?
So that's the poop chute.
Give it a fling. No, not to the lens. Right here we have a trap with a good catch. I need some brain juice. Anyway, boom, guys, that is the end of video number 1 here in Maine. This is the first video in a long 6-video series of us checking out all the seafood the USA's East Coast has to offer. And my God, this was an incredible start. How do we top live Maine lobster? Well, you're gonna have to stick around to find out. I wanna thank everybody who showed up in the video today, from our lobstermen to the processing warehouse to right here at this restaurant. Everything was fantastic, and this was some of the best food I've ever had in my life. I have to come back to Maine before I perish. Anyways, that is it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Peace. Now I have gout. I will have gout tonight.